solving the same problem two different ways. We've seen technology is a winner eats most, kind of thing. There's monopolies everywhere, right? Facebook, Google, Microsoft, Apple, and then after them, like, who cares, right? Things like that. In a winner eats most kind of scenario, I think it's important to look at two competing offers. In fact, I find it paramount, and I want to help you all do exactly that. I have more weight in Aave because I am more conservative, and I like proven things, but I really like Morpho's approach in tech, and they're young. It really is a good battle. Now let's get into it. All right, first and foremost, we got to figure out what is the chief differences. We have AI, which, grateful for Google, okay, because AI can really help with this stuff. Just summarize it all. I was looking for links to show you guys logical designs and stuff, and then I went to AI and found that it does a really good job. The chief differences, Aave takes pooled money, which means there's 1,000 people, let's say. They all want to get yield on their stable coins. They put $100 each, whatever, okay, so that's 100 grand, boom. Then Aave will pay a certain rate, just like a bank, for that deposit. Consider it like a high yield savings account. It makes yield on your deposits by loaning it out, and it makes a little difference, between the rate you get paid on your yield for your stablecoins and what the individual borrowing that liquidity would do. Where in Morpho, they have a peer-to-peer matching protocol, essentially. You might find super interesting is Morpho was originally a middleware, so it sat on top of Aave, or Compound, didn't really matter, and it fed loans that couldn't be peer-to-peer lent until they branched off on their own and created Morpho Blue, which we can get into. So that's the big differences, pooled versus peer-to-peer. And as you know, crypto is more peer-to-peer, pooled is more traditional, and that's why I own both, and I think both have their own place, but they are competing for similar market share. Then you have how they essentially generate rates. So they have standard pool rates that are actually governed by the DAO, a little bit more centralized on the Aave side. And then it is peer-to-peer. So basically at your election, if you agree to a rate, that's what, the rate is from both sides, the borrower and the lender. The efficiency, lower, more like a bank that can sit, and then you don't use Morpho if you can't get a loan. So that also means you're going to have faster settlement, faster processing, all that stuff. More flexible because Morpho is permissionless, where Aave is governed by the DAO. That is important to really understand that distinction. Aave is the bank of Ethereum ran by a DAO. Morpho is a peer-to-peer protocol that we all can use to loan and borrow from one another. Those are the chief differences. Both have credible market footholds and solutions. It's right now tie race because they're both really good. That's why I own both. All right, I like this. This is good. And then, like I had said, the settlement times and for the liquidity is going to be really fast because of how Morpho does it, and Aave. Because if you go to a bank, you're not talking to just a teller, then a mortgage broker, then the person has to approve it, and so on. All of the terms for the Aave protocol are public. You agree to them when you get in there really quick. That's why cash can sit idle to provide that on-demand liquidity, and they manage it all with really cool stuff that we're going to get into here. But in general, both are pretty fast. If there's no peer willing to take your terms or vice versa on Morpho, then they would just kick you over to Aave for their liquidity. Both of these are better than a bank, right? But Morpho does have a slight minus in their column. And Morpho is rapidly growing, which it is. Yeah. That's, Mount Everest. We'll get into that. But in general, both of them have a lot of upside in the future. I would consider Aave a giant, for sure. Take a look at Aave being the bank of Ethereum. And that's a really good place to be a bank, if you guys didn't know. Ethereum's the second largest protocol in the world, largest smart contract platform for now in the world, and $50-80 billion of stablecoins are just being dumped into it. It's a burgeoning network. It's a good place to be the bank. Then we have their size. When we say it's a giant, it is a giant. I'm telling you, look at this. 64 billion in deposits, 170 billion in volume, and better than your money market fund, 4.87 instead of 3.86 is actually what my rate just got cut down to. And then this is the average rate you're going to pay borrowing. That's a pretty good deal, guys. I mean, if you go to the private market, this easily is 9, maybe 10 for 70% LTV. Aave's giant. They do a lot of volume, and they've been doing this for a very long time. Let's go look at Morpho, the burgeoning young protege of Aave that looked at Aave and said, we can do it better and we're going to build better, which, you know, in my opinion, I think they did. This is actually really important. So the first difference to understand between Morpho and Aave is enterprises can actually integrate into Morpho's infrastructure and spin up their own ability to curate their liquidity. So that you can basically create your own bank with Morpho, which is how all these people plug in. And that's also why Coinbase decided to choose Morpho instead of forking Aave and doing it all through there. World Liberty Financial ended up forking Aave and pledged to put 10% back into the Aave coffers, and they haven't done that yet. So Aave has a scaling concern long term unless they figure out how to do what Morpho has done. If they were to roll out something similar to Morpho with their resume, I do believe Morpho would struggle. I genuinely believe that. Banking is all about liquidity. Aave has a huge head start, but Morpho is gaining traction, mainly because of how they can get liquidity. They just plug right into where it sits and make it easy for the, you know, the organizers of these things. Binance, Coinbase, Bitget, Trust Wallet, you name it. All of those founders, all those companies can create their own bank and offer lending, services using Morpho. And then, you know, it's going to be the same with Aave. What I also really like about Morpho is they have their code just literally public and they link out to the GitHub, which is amazing. Aave can meet all this stuff as well, so there's nothing too different here. And they have similar partners, similar things. They're like me, hedging their bets, and they really like what Morpho has done. I also like that they link research tools on their homepage, so me and other people can go look at all of the network health and the liquidity and just go look at all the data that I'll get into. So overall, Aave's, I guess, the slow big giant, and Morpho is the incumbent that has a really good shot with its tech. Now let's go look at the actual prices. Okay, right now Aave's trading at 219. Its peak was 500, and just not too long ago it was at 350, which makes me think the timing on Aave is not terrible. I could easily see us getting back to the 300 range for sure. And we look at the market cap, fully diluted 3.5 billion. So it's actually trading below what it has in TVL, which is, generally a good idea. Good setup there. But you also can notice that this tracking started back in 2020. And honestly, they've been building since 18. So they've been in, business 5 years. They made it through the bear market and they have continuously grown since then. The price on it, I really like that, it's fully diluted, is very close to the market cap, meaning almost all the tokens are circulating, which I really like. And in general, its opening price that was never seen. I mean, barely seen again, which shows really healthy sentiment and good leadership, good pricing. This would look more like a traditional asset, honestly, because crypto, if you've ever looked at these charts, they can look kind of crazy. We'll start with Morpho as an example. The first thing I notice is its market cap is only 700 million. Aave has established a 3.35 billion. So, I mean, that's roughly a 5x if it caught up to Aave, if they split the market. And looking at its chart, that could be a possibility. So I like that Morpho has more upside, which is why I've also allocated a little less to it. You need less capital to make more money on something that is, I think completely underpriced. I mean, Coinbase just started rolling it out a month ago, maybe a couple months ago now, to be honest. Either way, you got Morpho looking pretty well priced. It's like you bought it back in December of 24. Barely any growth has been realized, and its recent peak was almost, is that right, $4, and it's trading at 190. I'd probably pick up some more Morpho right here if I had liquidity. I like that there is max supply. What I don't like is the fully diluted being 2 billion. It's actually pretty close to Aave in market cap now. That's interesting. Maybe I would be waiting for lower prices, actually, knowing that. I would. Either way, we have a different tokenomic model. Aave can issue more tokens where Morpho, has a max supply. Aave also, this is a governance token, and we'll have to ask Morpho. Let's do that real quick because that's going to be important. Okay, it is another governance token. That's what I thought, but I didn't want to misspeak. So both are governance tokens, which theoretically are like closer to private shares, and everyone in this field is expecting governance tokens to spit off profits once they actually get to the place where they can make distributions, which will be a lot like dividends. So these are like private shares where you can actually vote on the decisions that this protocol would make. But overall, I honestly like both at these levels, and I feel like the biggest risk Morpho has is going to be that, 70%, 60% 50% of their tokens are locked up. I wonder if they have their, here we go, unlocks. Okay, it's a little bit, okay, it's about 50% locked. Private sale investors. So yeah, basically they have a lot of, that's actually not a terrible stack, to be honest. About half in VC money, and then the other half of the locked supply in distributors, the unlock schedule. Okay, it's a really small, they're unlocking 1% a month. That's what they're doing. That's interesting. I like both tokens where they're at, honestly, but that would be a risk, even though the insiders don't own nearly as much as sometimes you'll see that. Like Binance, for example, is owned wholly by CZ, who is owned by China most likely. So you gotta pick what your risk thresholds are in that regard. And then we have Aave and Morpho's actual on-chain data. So between the two, who's writing more loans? Who's making more money? Right now, we have Aave writing 23.9 billion loans and Morpho at 4.5 billion. And honestly, their charts look about the same. And I would say it's not much of a coincidence. The United States has basically given us regulatory clarity for people to actually start experimenting with this stuff when you have some actual size. So this is mainly due to the administration changes, the SEC changes, CFTC changes. All those changes have allowed both of these protocols to flourish and most of DeFi, to be honest. Also, if you were to look at stablecoins with this, you'll see that that's up only 2. They are up big. That is another big proponent to DeFi in general doing very well. More stablecoins means more people want more yield, more liquidity for both of these protocols to be making money. And then when we look at the actual charts of the networks, what they're doing, how they're doing it, you have over 140 unique users on Aave. So they don't have the unique users. They just have total users, which could be bots, which is not great. You can see here that the largest they have is World Chain. That's wild. Base, Plume, and World Chain. And, you know, World Chain, that's actually promising because World Chain doesn't have symbols. You have to make an account, you got to get your iris scanned. So these are actual real users. So Morpho is growing at a massive clip with World Chain. And you could really, you know, this just shows you the difference between a startup, how fast they can move, and how incredible peer-to-peer markets can be juxtaposed to a more centralized approach. Even though Aave is not centralized, you know, it's just more centralized. But this is spreading like a wildfire, Morpho. I mean, it really is. Their charts look incredible. Where Aave, you don't have to get into the specifics of what we're looking at here to notice that it's just a up and down. It's existing. It's humming. You know, some months are better than other months. For users, for loans that they write, interest paid out, all that stuff, deposits and borrows, it's all good months and bad months, and it's all around Ether price, which was what you would expect. It's healthy. You don't have any negatives, right? You don't have any down issues. You don't have any people with, I mean, take a look at this, 100% on all borrows, deposits. It's a very reliable, consistent, and, you know, well-oiled machine. Where with Morpho, it just looks way more exciting. It just looks more exciting. It is growing at a massive clip, and the price is not doing anything. This is what I like to call alpha. When you can find on-chain data that is inversely correlated to the price, like, does that chart look anything like that chart? No. So for me personally, I gotta give it to Morpho. In fact, after doing this, making this video, I haven't looked at Morpho since I started entering back in shortly after the token launch. Morpho, for me, it started off as like a speculative alpha play. It might have been 50 bips of my fund and maybe less for myself, only because of the design differences. I was so enthused about how they were building. And then I heard that there were whisperings of a big exchange that they were going to be partnering with, like shortly after the token launch. And I did not know it would be Coinbase, but that alone made me think, okay, if there's real buy-in from people that have established the market, it's worth getting a little piece of, right? Like, just slowly allocate. And then when I found out it was Coinbase, I put a little bit more in. I mean, I looked at all the on-chain data back then, and it looked, you know, it was like just picking up. And I was like, okay, this is good. And now, going back a couple months later and taking a look at it, I'm like, I might be underallocated to Morpho. So hopefully you guys learned something. I'm going to go probably get some Morpho, rebalance a little out of Aave and go get Morpho, to be honest. I love Aave though. I don't want all the Aave bulls here to hate me for saying those things. I think Aave has its place 100% because of institutions. I could see Morpho being rolled out for retail. Like if you had $1,000 of ETH, $500 of ETH, and you wanted $300 or something, I don't know, or maybe a card automated it, it'd be really interesting. I think all of that can be rolled out to retail via Coinbase, Binance, these bigger exchanges where all the liquidity is. And I could see Aave being the place where larger institutions want to be able to just put $1 billion in. Like Aave can handle $1 billion very calmly. In Morpho, finding a peer that can do $1 billion, that's gonna be hard. So I like both for different reasons. And that really is how this market, it's built out around the solutions and what they do for the ethos, for the internet. And I really, really, really like both of them. They just have different utilities, but if I had to put them head to head, I'd probably pick Morpho. I probably would. I want to call out a follower as well. There was a comment that Morpho is out of France and is under a different jurisdiction. There's another kind of avenue where you have Aave being more of an EU centric. Even though this is the internet, those companies, Aave Labs, could absolutely be targeted by the EU, MiCA. It can't really affect the tech too much, right? The governance keys and all of that through the token, but there are some regulatory things to be, to make note of, mainly with MiCA and the EU, which I can make another video on. MiCA is not great, but it's better than what we had up until the Genius Act, soon to be the Clarity Act. After the Clarity Act, I think America is going to be the best place for crypto. Absolutely. Which could be even more bullish for Morpho, making me lean a little harder into it. Hopefully you all learned something. I, in fact, did learn something. And make sure you hit that subscribe button. This is, me, Jake Tullis, the hedge fund manager of Bleeding Edge Capital in my crypto den in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I bring all of this to you guys, and I manage, I'm growing my fund, documenting it on YouTube throughout this entire process and letting you guys get exposure to what someone managing high net worth individual capital thinks and how I look at these assets. And hopefully you got something of value from it. Until next time, peace and love, and take care of one another. Cheers.